Please give it up for Dr. Ada Cheng.
Thank you so much for having me, Maureen. One night in November 2015, 5 minutes before midnight, before I sent an email to my colleagues to resign from my teaching position, I asked myself one simple question. What was the question? I was a tenured professor in sociology at DePaul University from 2001 to 2016 when I resigned to pursue storytelling and performance. So how did I go from, thank you. How did I go from being a professor to a storyteller? Let me take you back to one August morning in 2015. 8:30 in the morning, and I'm sitting on my bed surrounded by my 3 cats, one gray, one calico, one black, and you're looking at me with your hungry eyes screaming, feed me, like cats would do. I could feel the August humidity touch my skin. At that moment, I thought to myself, I think I'll do better as a stand-up comedian. I immediately went online to Second City website, Second City for improv, and I decided that I was going to take an improv class first. As I was about to register for my very first improv class, I thought of something my mother said to me decades ago. Now, let me take you back to early 1980s. I was a teenager, 16, 17 years old. Now you know how old I am. I'm at home in Taipei, Taiwan, opening the fridge, about to pour myself a glass of water when my mother walks in. And this is what she said. 叔叔, what do you plan to major in college? 叔叔, that's my Chinese name, given name. When Chinese Taiwanese parents give their children names, they usually have certain expectations for their career and future. Shu means like a lady. Zhu means good luck. My parents wanted me to be like a lady and have good luck. I grew up a tomboy, masculine, and I loved hanging out with boys. I turned out to be a disappointment for my parents. We didn't get along, we hardly talked. And I decided to leave the kitchen. As I passed her, I thought, I'm going to say something to irritate her. So I turned to her and said, I want to major in theater and performance. Now, imagine telling your parents that you want to pursue a life of financial instability and a life of uncertainty. In order to discourage me from pursuing theater and performance, this is what my mother said to me. No. You are not going to major in theater and performance. You are not going to make it. You are just not pretty enough. Here I am, sitting in front of my computer. Oh, just trying to register, sign up for a comedy class. What was I thinking about? Something my mother said to me decades ago that I wasn't enough. And I thought to myself, wait a minute. I'm 50 at the time, 7 years ago. I'm a grown woman. Why do I allow something somebody said to me decades ago to affect my decision to pursue comedy? Besides, there are uglier people doing comedy than I am. So I went ahead and signed up for my very first improv class. And I started taking classes at Second City, and I still remember that summer in 2015. I still remember lying on the ground in the classroom, laughing out loud, chasing my younger classmates, playing improv games and playing different characters. I was living my youthful dreams. I was feeling alive. I was feeling passionate. And then when fall came, everything changed. At night, I would go to Second City Annoying Theater and to take classes and performances. And then when I went back to the classroom, it felt different. It felt like I was doing a job. Have you ever in that situation where you fell in love with something and then you fell in love with someone and you just realized that there's something that you're doing, that someone that you're with, it just isn't the thing or isn't the right person anymore? That was performance for me. I realized that I loved my students, but I just wasn't in love with teaching anymore. But then what do I do with this job that's so difficult to get and everybody covets? I came to this country more than 30 years ago as an international student. When I first arrived, I could speak English, but I could barely write. It took me 3 years to get my master's degree, another 6 years to get my PhD, another 6 years to get tenure. By the time I got tenured, I thought I made it as an immigrant. I thought I achieved the American dream. I thought that was as far as I could do. I had prestige, status, respect, middle-class lifestyle, condo, monthly salary, health insurance. I had everything except one thing: happiness. I wasn't happy, but I couldn't quite figure out what to do with this successful immigrant story or immigrant success narrative. So in the next few weeks, I would struggle with this decision. I would go to school and I would feel miserable. And when I go home, I would cry. And then I would ask myself, do I continue to do this until the age of 65 when I retire? And then one night, I'm sitting on my couch in my apartment. My beautiful cat, this cat with gray fur and green eyes, and this gentle creature that had been with me for more than 10 years. She came to me wanting to be petted. And I was so miserable, so unhappy. I'm a cat lady, and I yelled at this cat, "You go away." And at that moment, I could literally picture myself hurting this cat. I was becoming someone so unhappy that I could do harm to a beautiful creature. At that moment, I was remembering my father. My father passed away 2 years before I left Taiwan in 1991. He was the typical Asian man. He would go out and work. When he felt oppressed at home, he would come back and take it out on his wife, my mother, and my brother. He drank himself to death. He became an alcoholic. At that moment, when I was yelling at my cat, I realized I was turning into someone I didn't like. Someone I had tried to stay away from for decades. I was turning into someone like my father. And whatever the university was paying me, it wasn't worth it. A decision had to be made. So that one night in November, 5 minutes before midnight, I realized that night was the night that I had to make a decision. I could no longer afford to get stuck at a crossroad. Either I jump off the cliff or I perish forever. I didn't want to be dead spiritually before I died. So I asked myself one simple question. Am I going to be okay if I have to wait tables and wash dishes? I got a PhD, but I got no other marketable skills. I spent my whole time in the United States in academia. I didn't know if I could survive outside. I didn't know what I could do. Am I going to be okay if I have to wait tables and wash dishes? And the answer is yes. At least I will be happy. So I sit in front of my computer and I started typing. Dear colleagues, after 15 years of teaching, I have had enough of you. I say it's time for me to leave. And I hit send. And that was how I quit my tenure position at the university without consulting with anyone. And that was one of the best decisions I have ever made for myself. Since 2016, I have been telling personal stories and doing solo performances across the country. Since 2017, I have been producing storytelling shows for people to tell difficult and vulnerable stories. I took a chance on myself. I gave myself a second chance in life, and that was how it all started. Thank you.